forgot what I was saying.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. I am celebrating my 1-year anniversary. Ooh, I think it's because I'm Hispanic. I'm rolling my R. Okay, hold on. I'm celebrating my 1-year anniversary of sobriety, and I wanted to bring you guys along on the journey. I wanted to talk about how the I did it. Sorry. If we could be, I wish I could be honest, like how I normally am.
If you really want to, when did you notice drinking became more of a routine or dependency rather than an occasional activity?
I definitely noticed a little bit in my 20s when I was going out all the time and drinking. So I thought that if I didn't drink maybe 10 shots and I reduced it to 3 drinks a sitting, that made it better, but it didn't. And I definitely noticed over the past couple of years that I was going to the bar more frequently and I would make excuses for why I would go. So I started to notice that it definitely was a pattern and I was just making excuses for myself.
I mean, how do you think these patterns developed over time?
100%, I believe it was unresolved trauma that I had and not being willing to address certain situations that I had gone through in my life. And the more that I drank, the more that I didn't have to feel. It was like a numbing mechanism for me.
How did you rationalize the drinking, even though it began to like affect you?
Oh, so I rationalized it. So I would go to the bar and I would go to this little dive bar and I would play 80s music, which is my favorite, and order my little chicken wings. I would have 3 drinks, but I would rationalize it by saying, I'm not doing anything bad. It's 4 o'clock and I'm listening and I'm listening to my favorite music. Like I'm just vibing. But still, I was driving home that way.
Oh no.
I also thought that because I wasn't going out on a Saturday night getting trashed at the club and I was at a bar setting, which was more safe, I felt that was better, but really it was the same thing, just a different setting.
Okay, so you felt like if the environment wasn't as intense or there was less people, it was okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
And I would hang out, I'm going to be honest with you, I would hang out with people that were older than me. These bars play 80s music, so they were people that were 50 or 60-year-olds. And so I was like, okay, I'm doing something mature, but not really. I was still drinking. And so for me, I realized that I had a problem when I was watching the documentary called The Chosen, and I saw Mary Magdalene at a bar with a bunch of men. And I realized that that's what I was doing. I was going to the bar and I was sitting at the bar with a bunch of older men, and it gave me the ick to see myself in that way.
At that point, you're obviously starting to realize, like, okay, I need to do something different. But let's take it a step back. You know, were there specific situations or pressures that first introduced you to alcohol? Like, what even got you started drinking in the first place?
I think just being young and you turn 21 and that's what everyone is doing. And then it becomes, for me, like I said, it was a numbing thing. And so I think I became a little bit addicted to it.
At a younger age?
At a young age, yeah. I would say like anywhere between 19 to 21.
Now, did you ever, like, you know, take on certain habits or behaviors to hide the extent of your drinking as, like, time went on?
No, but I would notice sometimes like siblings or friends would be like, oh, you're at the bar again? Like, you know, they would make comments. Oh, you're at the bar again? Or really, it's a Tuesday? Or, you know, little comments like that. And I would try to hide it a little bit because I was ashamed. But it wasn't like a full, like they need to sit me down and have an intervention, but it was like little comments that I would pick up on. It never made me feel sad or anything, but it was kind of like, oh, I don't want anyone to look at me and what I'm doing, you know?
I know you were saying they would make like little comments as far as you going to the bar or maybe going out drinking here and there. You know, that's like an indirect way of them like showing that they were worried or concerned. But was there ever times where maybe you were triggered or there was like certain environments that made you drink more frequently instead of drinking less frequently?
When I was in my 20s, 100% the club. I would go to the club Fridays, like literally 5 days out of the week I was at the club.
Okay, regular.
So yeah, I was a regular at the club, and you know, I would sometimes even leave. I would leave work, go to happy hour, and somehow end up at the club. go to work again, and then do it all over again. And I would do this like 5 days out of the week. But as I got older and I got more mature, right, and I was just at the bar, I would say, yeah, going to the bar would make me drink a little bit more. Or situations where I knew I didn't have to drive. So if I knew that I was gonna get an Uber, then I was gonna have a good time.
Was there ever a time where you maybe like blacked out from drinking? Because that sounds pretty crazy to me to like go to happy hour, then go to the bar, then go to work. Did you ever black out?
I remember one time I ended up at my sister's house after the club. And I remember she said, okay, this is where you're going to sleep. And I did. I like passed out on the side of, or like on the edge of the bed. And then I woke up, I was running a red light. And then I blacked out again. And then when I woke up again, I had slammed my car into my driveway. So that incident, and that really scared me. I think that's when I told myself, if you don't change something, you're either going to end up with a DUI or you're going to end up killing someone. And mind you, I had already been, I had one incident where I had been pulled over and the police did a walking test on me and like the eye test. And I did not have my license either, and he let me go. So, and then I also had one other incident where I ran a red light intentionally because I was like, oh, there's nobody here. And there was an undercover cop. And he pulled me over and he let me go. I told him I had been crying, like I broke up with someone. I don't know what I told him, and he let me go. So that was 3 chances that I had, and I knew that if I didn't change something, I was going to get a DUI, go to jail, or I was going to kill someone driving this way. And that's when I made the decision that, okay, moving forward, you're not going to go to the club and drink, but you're going to go to a bar now and just have 3 drinks. That's your limit, because that fixes it.
So that wasn't like a defining enough moment for you to want to like fully seek change. Like, was there other series of events or like a specific event where you're like, this is it. Like, I'm done. Like, I have to change.
So it was December of last year when I left a domestic violence relationship, and God told me, like, I got sick. I got really, really sick. Ear infection, fever, all of that. And I was down for like 3 weeks. And God told me, you don't listen to me because I be talking to you and you don't listen. So that's why I made you sick. And that's why I gave you an ear infection too, because you don't hear me. And so that's when I kind of just like was like, okay, I need to like listen to him. And while I was listening to him, he said, you need to give up alcohol, because if you do, you're going to have more discernment and you're going to hear me a lot better. And so for me, that was the moment. And I started off with just 1 month, and then 2 months. And then it became like, okay, you could do 3 months. And then here I am. I also do think that I allowed myself to operate in such a low vibrational energy that it attracted a lot of situations that were not good for me. I do think that if I was sober, I would have been able to make better decisions. And I do think that, you know how they say, like, you are who your friends are, right? The closest 5 people to you. And a lot of times I wasn't hanging around with the best people. And just alcohol was not something that was adding to my life.
What was it like for you celebrating wins with alcohol?
Everything that I celebrated was with alcohol. Everything. So if I got a promotion at my job, I celebrated by going to happy hour. If it was my birthday, I celebrated with alcohol. If I got a new boyfriend, I celebrated with alcohol. Like, literally everything was with alcohol. And I realized that I almost couldn't have fun without alcohol. And that's really sad.
You ever encounter, negative situations or negative people because of that?
100%, yeah. I remember one time we got maced at the club. Yeah, that was interesting. One of my friends got into an argument with a guy, and she ended up pulling out her mace, and it got cupped under her nail, and all of us got sprayed. So this is the first and last, that I ever got maced in the eyes. The most painful experience ever. But had I not been in a situation where I was drinking, I don't think that would ever have happened. I would like to say that some of the abuse that I have encountered in my life is because I was allowing myself to vibrate in that low vibrational state. And then I want to say, like, some of the abuse and the things that I went through probably would not have happened had I been sober, because I would have had a clear mind. You understand? Like, I wouldn't be in those situations. I wouldn't be around. You're not recording right now, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, you are? Okay. So I wouldn't be around people that weren't good for me. I wouldn't be operating in a low vibrational state. I wouldn't have been putting myself in situations. Or maybe if I was in a situation, I probably would have been able to exit stage left quicker than when you're drunk. And you know what I mean?
You were telling me a story before we start filming about a guy that came to your book signing, and I think it goes hand in hand with you talking about like putting yourself in bad situations where you're drinking. So can you talk to people about that a little bit for me?
Yes, so I had my recent book launch event for my most recent book, Calling Forth the Waves, and a man showed up to my event. Mind you, my events are public, so a man showed up to my event, and he brought a book and a journal, and he read the journal to me. He said he needed to show me the journal. In the journal, he had a whole page written about me. I saw my name in it with some Bible verses, and he was telling me that God was talking to him about me. And he handed me a book that talks about marriages and how to have a, God-centered marriage. When I opened the book, it said, Janine, I'm patiently waiting for you. And it had a Bible verse about love. Red flag. On top of this, he had invited his whole office, his work, to my event, which is fine. Like I said, it is a public event, but I didn't know him. I didn't know his coworkers. And two of them actually did show up. And the way that they glamorized me and they held me at such a high pedestal and they said they knew so much about me was a little concerning for me. There were certain red flags along the way, like him offering me alcohol at my event, knowing that I had been sober for a year. And towards the end of the event, he did pull me to the side to tell me that he thought that I was his future wife. But mind you, again, I had never met this man before. So I say all this to say that when I was drinking, I would have overlooked all of these red flags. And I probably would have thought that it was okay. I would have probably thought, oh my God, he brought me a book and, he has these Bible verses for me. But now that I am sober, I'm able to see things from like a third eye, a bird's eye view. And I'm able to have a more clear perspective on what's happening in the moment. So thankfully, because of my sobriety, I'm able to approach situations in a different light and not be so caught up in negative ones like I used to be.
I'm happy that you shared that story. Hopefully a story like that will get others to see when they're in those same situations and seeing like, damn, maybe I should slow down drinking, or maybe they put themselves in an uncomfortable situation that they would have got out of if they were sober.
100%. And I do think that as a woman, like with the situation, I had to sit in my car for a good 20 minutes before I even drove off from the venue because I didn't feel comfortable. And so when you just mix alcohol with that, it makes it a vulnerable situation for you. We really do need to be on high alert in places where we're not familiar, around people where we're not familiar.
What were some of the ways you distracted yourself from facing the reality of your drinking? And then
by alcohol. I wish you were recording that.
No, I am.
Oh yeah. So how did I distract myself from alcohol? By drinking alcohol.
Oh, okay. What was a single moment that like pushed you to seek the change though?
It wasn't anything like I got a DUI or I got arrested for something. It wasn't anything major. But honestly, God talking to me is pretty major. But it wasn't anything that was like life-threatening that I was like, oh my God, you need to get help, or I had to go into an AA. No, it wasn't anything like that. It was, I literally had an ear infection and God's like, you don't listen to me. Sit your ass down and stop drinking alcohol. And I was like, okay. That was my moment.
Yeah, you finally heard the voice and finally decided to listen.
I finally, because I've been hearing the voice forever, but I finally in that moment was like, okay, what would happen if I just listen? So, how will my life change if I just listen?
Now, in December, once you finally heard that voice and you felt like it was time, How did you feel emotionally and mentally deciding to finally commit to sobriety?
I don't know that I 100% had committed yet. Like I said, I was sick. So I was like, well, there goes that. I can't drink right now because I'm on antibiotics. That's how it started.
Okay.
Can't drink because I'm on antibiotics. And then I needed time to heal from, the sickness and the ear infection. And then, like I said, I started off with, let's just do 1 month. And then it became, let's do 2 months. And then it became, dang, you could do 2 months? Imagine what you could do if you did 3. And then it became a game for me of like, can you beat yourself? Can you beat what you did last month kind of thing? And eventually it became like, no, this is a decision we're making. We're going to hit a year.
Who supported you in that choice? As far as like finally starting to get on that road to sobriety. It's okay. Take your time.
No one. And I don't mean it in a sense of like I had people telling me, you shouldn't do that. I'm saying I was in a season where it was just me and God. I had lost a relationship. I had gotten rid of a friendship of 30 plus years. The only person I was talking to was God. A lot of my friends, I was just, when you have those seasons where it's just you're alone.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't understand why you're alone, but it's for a reason. That was, yeah. So I didn't have anyone that was there really to support me because it wasn't really an option. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I had the right person, which was God.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every time. God's good every time.
Mm-hmm.
So, now that you're approaching, almost a year of sobriety, things are just going up for you in the right direction. How do you, celebrate joy and in your life now without alcohol?
I go hiking. I like to go hiking. I have found that I can celebrate in other ways. I know this might sound crazy, but I'll go buy myself a vegan brownie or a vegan cookie and I'll eat that and I'll be like, oh, you celebrated. Or if I do, decide to get dressed up and I go out for dinner and treat myself, I'll have a mocktail. So I'll have them create like a strawberry with spritz and a little lemon on it. And that'll be my little celebration. Yeah, I've just found joy in like other things.
Do you ever, think you'll drink again, or?
I do. I think one day I will. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm struggling right now with if I do, am I going to feel guilt for doing it again? Mm-hmm. And so I think I need to process that. But I do know that if I do ever get to a place where I drink again, it's going to be in a much safe way. It probably will be with a limit of 1 drink. And I will have very strict boundaries with myself of you are not drinking and driving ever. So even if it's 1 drink, you are taking an Uber. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just going to look a lot different for me moving forward since I've been able to find other things that make me happy instead of alcohol. And I've also addressed all of the trauma and childhood stuff. I've addressed all of that. So there's really nothing to suppress or numb anymore. I haven't been to a bar in almost a year. And that was one of the boundaries that I created for myself is if I'm going to stop drinking, you have to stop doing the same activities or going to the same places and being in the same environments. So I'm not going to lie, there's probably been 2 times where I'm like, I really want some chicken wings. I want to go to the bar and I want to listen to my 80s music. But I was like, no. You can go get some wings and bring them home. And then I put on the music on my phone and I drink like an iced tea lemonade. So it's creating boundaries with myself and not breaking those boundaries with myself. Do I think I'll ever be go to a bar one day? Maybe, perhaps. And I think that if I do, it's only for chicken wings and a virgin drink. Mm-hmm. But it definitely also has changed my circle too, because I don't feel like I need to hang around people that only want to get shit-faced trashed like I used to. And now that I have been able to like learn how to vibrate in a higher space, I don't even attract those people anymore.
There's one thing that you said earlier. You said you had lost like a friendship of 30 years. Mm-hmm. Right. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, it was in the same season, that same season where God was like, sit down. Sit down, girl. And I had shared with it was my best friend of 30 years that I was getting ready to create my will and trust for my life and my business, just to make sure that everything is good for my sons if anything were to ever happen to me. And, I was like, I'm going to put you as my beneficiary. And she was all for it. And then God just started to whisper to me, and he's like, don't do that. There's a betrayal. And it was very loud. And I had a lot of anxiety. And I just prayed to God. I'm like, God, just show me. Take away the anxiety, but show me. And he did. Everything was revealed. And when it was revealed, it got revealed to me 2 days before I went to my attorney to sign the paperwork for my trust.
Look what God did.
And so I knew that it was like divine timing, and that I was listening to him. And so, yeah, I had to end that friendship. And in ending that, I've seen like my life just completely change. Obviously, alcohol, losing the friendship, the domestic violence. My life has just completely changed when I just finally started to listen.
Okay, so, I mean, with that being said, what advice would you give to others, who are maybe going through sobriety or might be struggling to listen to that little voice in their head? Obviously what works for you may not work for others, but or you have any words for them, maybe?
Give yourself grace, I would say. Don't be so hard on yourself. I think that the guilt feeling will eat you alive, right? But like I said, for me, what helped me was finally sitting down and listening to that voice, not ignoring it. And when your intuition tells you don't do something, don't do it, because it's trying to protect you from something. And God will continue to show you through lessons, right? And so, like, for me, I had three. I knew that I had three. It was getting pulled over twice and blacking out and slamming my car into my driveway. I knew that if I continued in that cycle, there was going to be a death potentially, or I would be in prison for it. And so you have to pay attention to those things. Seek help, ask for help. Get help from people if you need to. And I wish you the best, because it's not easy. It can be very difficult to stop alcohol since it is an addiction.
I mean, did you ever think that you were actually addicted to alcohol?
No, I was in complete denial. I thought that I didn't have a problem because, like I said, I could manage it. I was only having 3 drinks. But now, in hindsight, looking back, I can confidently say that I was an alcoholic. And I was 100% in denial. And what I've learned is that if you're in denial, that probably means that you are one. And the faster that you can accept it is the faster that you can get help.
Do you have anywhere that you can refer to people, or like AA meetings or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to find what works for you. I was going to what's called Celebrate Recovery, which I believe is similar to AA meetings. It's through the church. And it is helpful. They give you the little tokens and you get to celebrate your milestones along the way. But for me personally, I felt that it was too overwhelming to be in a room with other people that were also going through similar traumas as me, if not worse. And so for me, what helped me was going to counseling. I did 25 sessions of counseling, not specifically for alcohol, but just addressing a lot of different things in my life. So I recommend that you find what works for you. I would try out AA meetings or Celebrate Recovery. And if that doesn't work for you, maybe go to a counselor, or just continue to look for different resources and then find the one thing that sticks with you and then do that, because it's not going to be the same for every person.
What were your expectations sharing your story, and why?
I wanted to make this video because obviously to celebrate my 1-year anniversary, but also because I know that there's a lot of people out there that are similar to me, that maybe have gone through trauma in their life and they suppress their feelings or they numb their feelings with alcohol. And first, I want to say that I'm so sorry for everything that you've been through, and I validate your feelings. Your feelings are valid. We do have to learn how to cope in different ways. And so if you're looking for a sign, this video is your sign. And I do want to tell you that there's so much joy on the other side of this. If you commit to doing the healing work, if you commit to the sobriety, it's gonna be hard, but if you commit to it, there's so much joy that happens once you cross over on the other side. And I hope that this can be an inspiration to you.
Yeah, we got everything that we need.
All right, let's go celebrate with a drink.
No.
Just kidding, guys.